I maybe be angry, jealous, or in love. Make sure outsiders don't ruin the reputation and reveal our secrets. They need to be stopped, or the truth will come out. Motive means opportunity. I have the knowledge, the skill, the support, the tools to become a killer. Motive means opportunity. Now the opportunity reveals itself by time and a shady alibi. I have no reason to explain the things that I do. Can I do the crime in the time? Can I cover this up, or does this mean we're corrupt? Motive means opportunity. Do I have the motive, the means, and the opportunity? Motive means opportunity. The motive, the means, and the opportunity. Motive means opportunity. I have the knowledge, the skill, the support, the tools to become a killer. Motive means opportunity. Now the opportunity reveals itself by time and a shady alibi. I have no reason to explain the things that I do. Can I do the crime in the time? Can I cover this up, or does this mean we're corrupt? Motive means opportunity. Do I have the motive, the means, and the opportunity? Motive means opportunity. Do I have the motive, the means, and the opportunity? Motive means opportunity.
Hello, everybody. How are y'all? It has been crazy holiday time. I have not seen y'all since my Christmas stream that I did. And man, have I had a lot to say. And having to just do it in the comments or say things on Twitter is not enough for my thoughts and opinions on Laura Owens having the right to remain silent, but not the ability. She has probably been told by her old attorney, her bestie attorney, and her current attorney to shut up. Stop putting stuff out there right now. Like, it's one thing for her to be talking during a civil suit. I mean, it still can be used against her, obviously. But that's financial stuff that's on the line, and we see what she's trying to do financially. And so is she, is she not somebody worth suing because they don't have money, even though they like to project that they have money? And they're getting money from somewhere to continue living the way that they're living. But judgment proof, that's the word I was looking for. But when it comes to your freedom and your liberty, you need to shut the hell up. Do not help people convict you. And all she's doing is giving more and more information. And she's showing her cards. And surely it's gotten back to her attorney. Because if it hasn't, then he or she is not paying much attention to her. And he needs to gain control of his client and tell her to knock it off. Um, but she just keeps going. And so, for those of you that thought that she would be taking a plea, I don't know that she is going to. I know some of you have thought, no, she's never going to plea because she can't let go. But her putting this out around the time she's been told there's a possibility of, or there's going to be a a plea deal, she wants to go ahead and do this. I mean, Merry Christmas to us all and a Happy New Year, right? Because, we love it for the plot, but, like, she's just stupid. And so we are going to get into it. Welcome, Great Grand. Welcome, Bruce. Welcome, Echoes. Welcome, Tear Datter. I can't pronounce that. Tear Datter Akashini. Um, welcome. You want her to talk more. Yeah, I mean, we love it for the plot, but um, it's just not good for her. Welcome, Razmataz. Um, all right. Don't try your name. I already did, and I'm sure I butchered it to all hell. So something that Lauren figured out, whether it was Lauren or whatever, but she's who brought it to my attention. And so I want to bring this up to show it. Do not forget to hit that like button. Comment down below if you're on replay. Subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed, and share this out if you want to. It just helps with the algorithm and lets us know that we are continuing to talk about Laura Owens and her public case that she brought to the public. She likes to make it sound like we all just dug this out of our asses from nowhere when she's the one that put it out there for everybody and gave us the information. I forgot how to share screen. Okay. Let's see here. Share screen. All right. Should not have audio with this tab, but all right. So Lauren shared this. And these are linked in her posts, apparently, or linked or clipped or something on her Justice for Laura page. And she would have gotten these deposition clips through the discovery process and through doing his deposition. And her and her attorney have put clips of this out. Notice nobody's put her clips out of her deposition. But she has them on her YouTube page, which has 19 subscribers, and it's listed as unlisted. And unlisted is where only you and whoever you give a link to watch the video can watch it. It's kind of like it's putting it in a form of private mode. but you can actually share it out. Um, I have unlisted videos on mine from when my kids were younger and they wanted to do things. I unlisted all of those as soon as I decided to start all this, but if they ever want those videos, they're going to be there for them to watch. But nobody else can see them unless I share that with her. What's interesting is she hasn't published or unpublished on her YouTube, not her attorney's YouTube. Now, could it be David Gingras doing this on behalf of Laura or the two of them together along with Jan Black? It wouldn't surprise me if it was the three of them. I don't know what David's been up to. I don't really care. It's nice to not have him around. But this stuff right here has it to where basically you're the only person who can share these links. So it is either you or your mother or your attorney, or I guess maybe your sister that would have this link and you would have shared it to them to share these clips. You have to be involved somehow. And so you can't deny now that this is you, which, criminals, we like dumb criminals because that's how we catch them. Criminals aren't known to be very smart. And she's no different. She seems to think that there are only certain types of crimes that need to be actually addressed in the world, which involve murdering people. Um, so, you know, I don't understand her view on crimes. If you're committing crimes, no matter what it is, Laura, it needs to be looked at. The horse ain't doing her any favors. My Texas person. My Texas buddy. Um, that horse is like, hell no. You out here embarrassing me in these horse shows. Sirocco wants nothing to do with this. He's like, please keep me in California. Stop bringing me back to Arizona. I do not like it here. It's too hot. I like it in California. He's a Cali horse and he's tired of dealing with the Owens. He likes it much better when he's away from her. So let's take a look at some of this archive stuff because you just don't do it. All right. So you're going to share this page right here. It's because she's dumb that she keeps getting caught. It's just ridiculous. But I hope everybody had a good Christmas and a good New Year's. Mine was enjoyable. It's the first year my grandson kind of participated in it. So that was fun to see. I'm even more excited for next year's Christmas with him. Because he wanted to pass out presents. Some presents are too heavy, but he was passing out presents, but he's 2, he can't read. So it was like present roulette. Check your tags, people. And he would give them to people, and then he would go and take other people's presents and then go give them to somebody else. It was a mess, but it was so much fun and cute. because he just wanted to help. All right, let's get into this. All right. Okay. Her Justice for Laura volunteer. There is no Justice for Laura volunteers. That is ridiculous. Nobody is volunteering. You can volunteer for yourself, I guess. And I like that it's written like a Medium blog, which she could have written these basically on a Medium platform and has just created this and the date and then the amount of time it takes to read. But you know what? Let's actually look at that. Mm. Really? I don't. Okay, let me do it a different way because I don't. Mm. Okay, no, it's not showing up on there. I was gonna see if she actually has it under Medium under that, but from what I tell, she doesn't. So, when maternity case becomes a SWAT operation, first of all, they came to secure the premise. Yeah, there was a bunch of people in there, but it wasn't guns drawn, which in a SWAT raid, we say the house was raided and the house was swatted. It wasn't. They came to secure a search warrant and they didn't have their guns drawn on people. It was very calm. The only person not calm in this scenario was Laura, escalating everything. And so she's putting it out there as if this was a SWAT. This lady doesn't know what a SWAT is because I almost wish they would have with her behavior. Because if this was a SWAT, there would have been guns drawn. She would have been on the floor. She would have been tased. She would have been cuffed. There has never been a more polite SWAT operation, if she wants to call it that I've ever seen in my life. And yes, out to fire, she did spell scam wrong. It's a scam operation, not a SWAT operation. Wrong S word. So that was the first thing. I hate that she says she's swatted because when people think of SWATs, they think of guns ablazing and all that. And Laura Owens and her family. You can tell this picture was taken several years ago. And it's off of Facebook. And she talks about it dawn on January 29th. The SWAT team executed a raid on the Scottsdale property where Laura Owen lived with her parents. You live in the casita. 16 officers participated in this operation. They arrived before sunrise. The target was not a fugitive. It doesn't have to be a fugitive. There were no allegations of weapons, explosives, or violence. No threats had been made. Well, you're always saying people are making threats. No one inside the home had a criminal record. Thing is, they do SWATs and these things like that, on drug houses too? Those aren't those aren't weapon, explosives, or violence. Yeah, felony. She wants to say fugitive instead of felony. No, they want to make sure that you don't try anything. That's why they need all these people there. She doesn't have a criminal record. Not yet. Um, but the thing is no one inside the home had a criminal record. You know who also didn't have a criminal record? Lori Vallow, before she was convicted of murdering her 2 children and her newest husband, Chad Daybell's wife, so that she could marry Chad Daybell. Lori had never been convicted of a crime, had never had a criminal record. So get out of here with that you've never had a criminal record. Now, while there is things, usually when people start to do things, you might have some, but there's a first time for everything. And sadly, in the world that we live in, especially in that whole Me Too movement, women have been able to just go in there, especially a skinny white woman, has been able to go into the court system, bat their lashes. Woe is me. I'm just a tiny girl. Like, he's so much bigger than me. And they're believed. And the thing is they should not be believed because they're female or anything like that. We should be able to believe anybody that says those things. But there are people like Laura Owens. There are people that have accused people like Trevor Bauer and so forth that have been there's people like Amber Heard. Those people are the ones that make us have to question people. But women have gotten away with it for so long. A girl gets turned down by a guy. So she is embarrassed and wants to holler that he did something to her. Just 1 second. I have to sneeze. Okay. So, no. The thing is it's not that we should not believe all women. We should not believe all men. We should live in a society where only the people who are really victims should say these things. And when you're not, you're the lowest of the low to me. You're there with and Laura's like all of them. Somebody that lies about DV, lies about pregnancy, and lies about cancer. Those to me, and people that hurt children, those to me are some of the most vile human beings. And she has 3 of those. Things you should not lie about. Like top 3 things you should not lie about. She is all 3 of them. And no telling what she would be the mother that would use the child as a pawn to get what she wants. And I can't stand moms who are like that. So her, "Oh, nobody had a criminal record." And then she wants to talk about her 80-year-old father and his Parkinson's disease. We gotta play the sympathy card, we gotta get our jurors on our side, right? And her 69-year-old mother, well, she's no spring chicken, but she still gets around. And yet, the response was indistinguishable from what police departments reserve for their most dangerous cases. You don't know what they do. They ran this the same way they run every other search warrant. And they do not give you a heads up on search warrants. They could have had you come down to the police station, and then while you were at the police station, just go search your house and got everybody out and just done it that way when y'all weren't even there. Like, they surprise people with search warrants for a reason, because you are believed to be somebody that commits crimes. And so they want to do things to make it to where you're not going to commit further crimes to get rid of evidence. And you already have been kind of found to have tampered with evidence in a civil suit. So excuse them for not treating you better, but that's because of your own actions. The fact of the matter, not because of who Laura is, but because of what SWAT units are for and what they are not. Well, you didn't get swatted. You just had a search warrant served on you. And they made sure that they could secure the property because they had permission to. Less than a year earlier, on May 9th, 2024, the Scottsdale Police Department publicly described the purpose of its Special Weapons and Tactics Unit in a Facebook post the department wrote. Right? Yep. No criminal record just yet. Did any of those, the thing is also, I would have to go back and look at the body cam footage, but did any of them, I didn't see a SWAT vehicle there. I also don't remember seeing SWAT on any of the uniforms. So, as she's going to sit here and say, and talk about her swatting that she says, actually against the worst and most violent offenders, our SWAT team serve search warrants to arrest and capture dangerous and armed suspects. They respond to hostage calls and barricaded suspects and overwhelmingly make the arrest or solve the crisis without a single bullet being fired. Well, whoever served the search warrant for you, no bullet was fired. They do constantly train for the worst case scenarios. Yeah, like if you wanted to barricade yourself in your house and not come out like they told you to, and you're like, "Oh, well, this door is not the screen is not cuttable." And if you wanted to do that, they are prepared for that. They are prepared for people who act like children. He says, "Because that's typically when our community needs them the most." She says, "This is not ambiguous language. It's an explicit statement of scope. SWAT exists by the department's own definition for dangerous and armed suspects, hostage situations, barricaded individuals, and worst case scenarios where lives are at immediate risk. Nothing publicly alleged about Owens, including by her harshest critics, place her in any of these categories. You're a danger to yourself, and you are a danger to men. So maybe you have threatened people in the past. You have threatened violence on yourself in the past. We don't know They didn't know if you had any weapons. They haven't done a search of your house. They don't know if you're the type that carries weapons. Apparently, you're not, but who knows? All these threats that you and your family get, maybe you would have become armed at some point. They don't know that. And no, you weren't attempting to flee as of yet. I feel like y'all might have been an Adelson family case, if given too much free time. But I do not think there was anybody actually a part of the SWAT team that was out there. I think they were just regular officers. I could be mistaken, though. It said the underlying conduct involved court filings and communications arising from a paternity dispute. Sort of. Some of them arise from that. Some of them do not. Yeah, let's hope she has a record soon. Dang, she's gonna go from no criminal record to possibly 14 convictions. So I have a 14 list long. To go from 0 to 14, mm, that's real quick. But she has done this for 10 to 14 years, and she's not backing down. No reasonable reading of Scottsdale PD's own standards places that conduct anywhere near the circumstance described in SWAT's mandate. Well, apparently you are an expert. Justice for Laura Owen volunteer Laura Owens. She volunteers for herself. What followed deepened the concern. Members of an online group of Clayton Eckerd supporters, known as Justice for Clayton, raised money to obtain body camera footage of the raid. And the footage was then circulated online, clipped, replayed, and discussed, not as evidence, but as entertainment. The raid became content. It did. But if you would have just acted like a normal human being instead of like a crazy person, it wouldn't have been entertaining. If you had just sat on the couch like your mother, it would have been like, wow, she's actually being reasonable. I mean, we had to give David Gingras props in that video. Do you know how much that hurts our soul having to give David Gingras props? It, we would have given you props too for acting like a grown up and handling this as a grown up should. But instead, you acted like a perpetuant child. Memeified, document police conduct for courts and the public. It's not intended to be monetized. Memeified or used as proof of guilt by a spectacle. Well, the thing is it can be used as consciousness of guilt because you didn't want to come out. And your refusal to come out and cooperate can be consciousness of guilt. Because if you have nothing to hide, why throw a huge ass fit about it? They can use that as consciousness of guilt. Even if you want to protect your property and your lawyer and all that, but you look guilty when you don't want people we want to know what's on Jan's phone. And the reason we want to know what's on Jan's phone is because of the way you acted about your mother's phone. We don't care about Ron's phone. We've concluded there's probably nothing on on Ron's phone that has to do with anything. But I bet we see some communications with her and her mother that maybe are not on Laura's phone, but are on her mom's phone. And you getting rid of those text messages or something like that on your phone could be a consciousness of guilt if it's on your mother's phone. Why are you deleting this stuff? Why did you do it on your mom's phone or instead of your own so that it wouldn't be tied back to you if somebody looked? People loved the footage. Yeah, Law and Crime loved the footage. Inside Edition loved the footage. Online observers seeing the footage and descriptions compared the operation to counterterrorism raids. What? One comment read, "They're acting like she's an international terrorist. It reminds me of when they found bin Laden." Another said, "This looks like they are searching for a terrorist." Where are those? Who said that? Because her raid looks nothing like trying to find the terrorist. She did not get treated like that. That's a crock of shit. And if somebody wrote that, I'm thinking it's somebody that's related to her or herself. Because show me where those comments are. I still have yet to see anybody on her side. Of all the people that have grown to see this case since that raid video came out, nobody else has come out and is like, "Oh, I am in support of her." Nobody. And that's another interesting part of this case is there's not a volunteer to create a justice for Laura. She wants to be Karen Reed now. And she's not. Because she's in the wrong. It is possible to believe every allegation against Owens and still recognize that this response was unjustified. They just came to serve you a search warrant, ma'am. That's it. They were not there to resolve disputes about credibility. They were there to collect evidence. No, they're not there just to stop imminent danger. They're there to make sure no other crimes happen, nothing gets destroyed. And that you being approached with this search warrant and them coming to your house and you thinking, "Oh shit, this has just gotten real," is a whole different ballgame because you hadn't even been indicted at this point. You've just been told they were looking into you and there were whispers of things. But you knew in that moment, "Oh shit, this is happening." Like this just became real. They don't know what you're going to do once you find out that shit just got real for you. Because people, when they get served sometimes or they have raids, there are people that unalive themselves right then and there. They didn't know if you were going to do that. They wanted to make sure that you weren't going to do that. But you weren't treated any certain way, and you can look at the body cam footage and see that for yourself. You don't have to take her word for it because you can go watch it, see it, and hear it with your own eyes. You don't need to take anybody's word. Nobody from JFC needs to tell you when you can just go look for yourself. Then celebrated, monetized, and consumed as entertainment. The issue is no longer one defendant. It is whether the state still remembers why these tools exist at all. Yeah, for criminals, alleged criminals. Because when a state deploys its most extreme law enforcement tools against a nonviolent defendant with no criminal history in a case rooted in a family court filing, while thousands of similarly situated cases are handled civilly and quietly, the issue is no longer judgment or caution. It is a selective prosecution. No, it's not. Made visible not by the law required, but by who the defendant filed, how loudly the internet demanded punishment, and how willing the system was to oblige. It's a crock of crap because they didn't selectively prosecute you. Ask how many people that have wrongfully accused men of things in Maricopa County. Ask Rachel Mitchell how many times she prosecutes it. Because so far, I've seen her prosecuted every single time. If it's happened in her county, she has done it. She was there for Trevor Bauer. So this is not selective. She is just not going to stand there and allow women to act the way you are doing. You are giving women a bad name, and you are making it harder for real victims. So it's not selective. And you want to write in your article that, oh, it could have been a nobody. Well, Mike and Greg were considered nobodies. And you now have charges with a nobody in your eyes. The reason that this story got so big is because you knew you went after this bachelor, in my opinion. And because he has a little bit of fame, you use that fame to try to get the media on your side. And then when people started looking and not just believing fully, you panicked and started faking things. But you brought it to the media. You're the one who made it about fame and celebrityhood. Clayton didn't do this. Clayton wasn't going to have any of this aired until somebody was falsely accusing him of something he did not do. You are decharacterizing him and making him something he is not. You're ruining his image. And he is not going to stand for it. And thankfully, the nobodies that you got away with doing your shit to were brought into the spotlight. And we do care about Mike and Greg and the others just as much as we care about Clayton. But you could have still been prosecuted about it. It just might not have been so big. But you are the one who made it big. That was all you're doing. All right. So let's look. She wants to talk about, a case that reached the internet before the court. Well, she's the one who brought it to the internet. She brought it to the media. She brought it to Reddit. She brought it to Medium. She's the one who contacted Reality Steve and Dave Neal with her false documents. All right, let's see here. But I'm glad she's made these pictures available for public and not private. All right, now let's do this one. No, I believe it's her mom. Um, David could have helped on further things. He most certainly did not help her because he admitted on her behalf, um, things that she never did admit, and she could have just gone down denying them, but your attorney said that you said he could say these things, so he was acting on your behalf, but this was going on long before DG, so alright. So let's see here. Alright. The National Stakes of Laura Owens, December 16th. This is apparently a 4-minute read and is another Justice for Laura volunteer. Look at all these volunteers. And her appearing on court on November 18th, 2025. Here's where she still becomes ridiculous. Oh, why did it do that? Okay. Let me put it back to this. All right. She misunderstood. But how many times have you seen people, um I've seen plenty of raids happen at night, if she wants to call it a raid. Like, so I don't know what she's talking about. So, she wants to talk about the pregnancy stuff. All right. In a long history of reproductive rights, most threats arrive plainly labeled a statute restricting abortion, a court decision narrowing autonomy, a policy aimed at criminalizing pregnancy outcomes. What is unfolding in Maricopa County is more subtle and for that reason more dangerous. No, you are the dangerous one, Laura, not Maricopa County. And may I say, I don't know if any of you ladies or anybody are from Maricopa County, but the stories about women through the decades in Maricopa County are insane. I don't know what is in the water, but there are so many crazy people that are, I mean, women that have come out of Maricopa County. And I don't know if they just, stop by and drink the water or if they are from there. Well, obviously, Laura's not from there. Lori Vallow, I do not believe was from there. And she did some things in Maricopa County. We've got the Trevor Bauer situation, and there's some others. Like, we could do a whole slew of just crazy women in Maricopa County. So, dangerous women, be aware. It is the first known case in the United States in which a woman faces sweeping felony charges, including offenses in the same class as manslaughter. No, it is that is not the first time there have been offenses that are in the same class as manslaughter. And what do you mean by the same class? And manslaughter is supposed to be manslaughter is not premeditated, and you are definitely a premeditated person. And no telling what you would have done to these crazies. I mean, we could have been in a misery situation. Um, there's another one. Um, there's some other movies out there too where you might have reached that if you would have gone crazy enough. But she says because the state now asserts she was never pregnant when she initiated a lawful paternity action. She has the county and the grand jury found that you weren't pregnant. And I don't know everything that the prosecution showed the grand jury to get a true bill on not 7, but 14 charges against you. And I don't know if it was still the same sitting grand jury that indicted you for the first 7 as it was for the second 7. But let's say they were 2 different grand juries. You now have an additional, what, 24 people? Because I think there's 12 on a grand jury. Let's see. At least 9. So let's go 18 to 24 people. And they could even sometimes have 16. Um, well, that's a, yeah, for a grand jury. So 18 at the very least, an additional 18 if it was 2 different groups for the grand jury that found that the prosecution had enough evidence, if everything that the prosecution said was correct, to indict you and probably find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Because that's the thing. Rachel Mitchell didn't just decide on her own. Edward Leiter didn't just decide on his own. They decided, hey, we think we have enough to charge this girl. Let's take it to a grand jury. So they presented it to a grand jury, and those grand jurors found that, yes, we believe you have enough to indict her. Granted, it's not always hard to indict people. You know, people say you can indict a ham sandwich, but they found that you were somebody that should be indicted. So they didn't see anything. Granted, the defense doesn't get to present anything at the grand jury. The defense doesn't even know when it's happening. But there were 2 grand juries in this. There was one for the Greg Gillespie stuff, and there was a grand jury for the Clayton Eckerd stuff. So the county just didn't do this on their own. The prosecutor's office didn't just do this by themselves. There were people that agreed with them based on the evidence that they showed. And the thing is, in your case, you don't have a much of a defense for anything. So sadly, it is going to be basically what the prosecutor shows. And you don't have to prove anything at a criminal trial, Laura. The state has to prove it. And to me, the state was able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt before they even took it over. So, like, you have an uphill battle to climb. But I'm going to listen and look for and watch for all the evidence. I'm going to see if there is a reasonable explanation for some of the things. I feel like if there was, you would have presented it by now, maybe on your webpage, and you still haven't. So, like, I don't know what else you're going to present at trial, because if anything on your website or your blogs or anything you've done so far is your defense at trial, yeah, you're going to jail, honey. To grasp the significance of this case, it is necessary to put Laura Owens herself to the side. Whether one believes she is pregnant, doubts her credibility, or finds her actions reckless, it is not the question of this prosecution's forces the country to confront. The question is whether reproductive uncertainty itself can now be retroactively criminalized. No state has ever treated reproductive uncertainty this way, and if Arizona succeeds, others will follow. No, they won't, because that is not what is happening in your case, you dumb bitch. You are not being prosecuted for being uncertain about being pregnant. That is not what is happening here. You are being prosecuted for knowing you weren't pregnant and committing a fraudulent scheme knowing you weren't. This was not about an oops, I ended up not being pregnant. Or oops, I thought this person was the daddy and it was actually this person. So you are not being prosecuted or criminally charged for reproductive uncertainty, because in their case, they believe you had all the certainty. So, as Rosalind Duke would say, fuck off, Laura. Stop trying to act like you are a martyr for women's rights. You are the next Amber Heard that's standing up for women who just, in the eyes of celebrity men, just get crushed. Nothing that you or Amber Heard have done has anything to do with you being a celebrity. It has to do with your actions. And you're right. If Maricopa County or any county, city in the US was going after women for reproductive uncertainty, I would agree that that is ridiculous. But that is not what is happening, and that isn't going to happen. But you just make up things. You just make up these things, and that's just not reality. And that's the problem with you trying to put on a defense, is you still cannot accept reality. And it's by choice, not because you just don't have the mental capacity to do so. You are choosing not to, because that is not what's happening. But I'm sure one of your attorneys is gonna be like, "Oh, well, just think if you were ever accidentally pregnant or you thought you might be pregnant, like, they could come after you." No, because you know what those women wouldn't have done? Changed HCG numbers, done arts and crafts on their sonograms, gone to a doctor, had a doctor be able to verify that, yes, we had reason to believe that she was pregnant. You don't have any of those. All you have is some hired goons, hired experts, if you want to call them that. Because what you should have is real doctors and people that you have seen that know these things firsthand, but you don't have those. So early pregnancy is defined not by clarity, but instability. Medical literature consistently estimates that 30 to 50% of pregnancies end before they are clinically recognized. Hormone levels rise and fall. They do. As a matter of fact, in November, I had a rise in my HCG. It told me basically I was menopausal, which I was in forced menopause since I was 23. So, yeah, my hormone levels, my HCG levels doesn't mean I'm pregnant. Symptoms fluctuate, tests conflict. What tests conflict? A test when you're not pumping HCG into yourself and when you are pumping HCG into yourself? Yeah, I guess those can conflict. Chemical pregnancies resolve before ultrasounds are possible. You didn't have a chemical pregnancy. There is no medical evidence of that. You're not going to be able to present medical evidence of that because you didn't ever see a doctor. For generations, both medicine and law have treated this uncertainty as unavoidable, a physiological reality, not a moral or legal failing. Criminal law has never attempted to police that space until now. No, they're still not policing that space. They are saying you cannot lie about being pregnant when you know you're not. At the center of Owens' case and her paternity, she filed after obtaining early positive HCG lab tests. And you know what nobody pretty much in the HCG community has said is that you didn't pee positive for HCG. None of us have ever questioned the positive HCG. We've always wondered how you are peeing positive HCG. How is that happening? And what do you know? When it started coming out that you were going to be indicted, we found out you allegedly had been having HCG delivered to you. So, yeah, you may have early positive HCG lab tests, but the reason is not because you were pregnant. It's because you were injecting yourself with HCG, using them kind of as a GLP-1, but also to do positive. Let's see. Arizona law explicitly allows such filings during pregnancy. The statute written was to protect children and allocate responsibilities sooner rather than later. And it contains no requirement that a pregnancy survive, no obligation to prove viability, and no penalty if the filer turns out to be mistaken. Yeah, and nothing would have been wrong if you were mistaken or if you would have actually lost the baby. But that's not what happened here. No matter how much you try to say it, that's just not the facts. And I'm at the point where you're going to have to prove. Sadly, as a criminal defendant, you don't have to take on the burden of proof, but you're going to have to dispute this. And I don't know how you're going to do it. I really don't know how she's going to dispute this without herself taking the stand either. because her mom cannot get on the stand and talk about Laura's statements. Because it should be hearsay. But there is no penalty for those who legitimately didn't know. I also think that maybe because of women like you, there should be proof of viability and pregnancy. But if we have women like you, because here, let's say that was a part of you having to be able to file this paternity case, right? Let's say that the law had changed and you now had to prove pregnancy. You would still be in the situation you're in because you would have come in, you would have handed over a doctored sonogram or a doctored doctor's note as your proof of pregnancy. And you would have still been scheming because once they got through everything, everybody would have been able to get to the same facts that we're at now. You lied about those ultrasounds, you doctored them, you wrote those notes. So even if it was verifiable with a sonogram picture or a doctor's note, now the courts can't even trust that because of people like you, because it's forgery. You're assuming other people's identities. Crimes that you're charged with. You're charged with those crimes. Forgery and fraud. You're not charged with being wrong about a pregnancy. You need to grasp the reality, Laura. And the only way I think you're going to do it is sitting in a jail cell by your lonesome. And if you act like you did in that body cam footage in prison, you're going to find yourself in solitary confinement or the hole, as they like to call it. And they're not going to be so gentle with you. In every known instance until this one, when a pregnancy did not, the Owens case is lone departure. It is a lone departure because there hasn't been anyone quite like you. You are unique, one of a kind, and it's not a good thing. Arizona has designed a process designed to help families and repurposed it into a basis for indictment. No, you created this. This break from precedent matters precisely because the state's theory does not limit itself to an ultrasound image or specific evidence in this case. It rests on a broader and far more troubling premise that if the government later determines a woman was not in fact pregnant, then her earlier belief or her earlier assertion can be treated as an intentional deception warranting years of decades in prison. No, lying about it, knowingly lying about it, and forging documents. And something she likes to say is, well, I didn't hand these documents over to the court. Like, I didn't use these as evidence. No, they're just a part of the discovery process. So Clayton has the right to say, hey, this is what she has done and things she has sent me. This is his evidence to show that you're lying. Because surely you're not going to say it's Clayton's fault for him showing his evidence of you falsifying stuff. Because that wouldn't be right. You falsified it to further your scheme along. Doesn't matter if you gave it to the court or if people found it in other ways. You are still the one that did the thing. So by saying, "Well, I didn't give the court those documents, I just gave them to the person I was trying to lie to and scheme and extort," that doesn't bode for you very well either. Once the doors open, the implications extend well beyond this case. No, they don't. No, they don't. The only thing that would extend beyond this case is if there's another woman out there trying to or thinking about doing what you've done, they think twice about it. That maybe nobody will commit a false pregnancy scheme, especially in Maricopa at least, because they can go to jail for it. What happens to the woman who files for child support during early pregnancy and miscarries before her first hearing? Well, did that person lie about seeing doctors? Did that person doctor sonograms? Did that person doctor doctor's notes? No. What happens to a teenager who believes she is pregnant based on symptoms and later learns she's wrong? She's probably not going to be in court as early as you were. But once again, did she doctor evidence like you did? What happens to the woman whose early loss is too swift to document, whose clinic test is inclusive, or whose medical records do not unfold neatly enough to satisfy a prosecutor? You lied about going somewhere when you could have just written on the HIPAA form the place that you said you went. But while Woodnick and them maybe didn't check out Los Angeles, I guarantee you Maricopa County prosecutors have checked out Los Angeles as well. They've probably checked all of California and all of Arizona just to make sure. And you are also required to hand those over, whether they find them or not. You're required to hand those over. But yours didn't just not unfold neatly. You lied about them and you omitted things that were even lies then. Is she now vulnerable to charges of fraud, perjury, evidence tampering? No, because these situation you gave, these people didn't commit evidence tampering. They didn't knowingly lie about something. You knowingly lied about something and you tampered with evidence. And she didn't commit a fraud. She made a mistake, which is not what you did. Or does criminal liability depend on something else entirely? Visibility, notoriety, or public outrage? I mean, it helps when the public is outraged. It for sure does. Because it is the community's job to they didn't wear a fake baby bump. Exactly. And wherever you ordered it from. Because the thing is they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you knew what you were doing was a fraudulent scheme. They have to prove that you knowingly lied. And based on this is why I know they should have more evidence of you buying HCG. Maybe of you buying a baby bump on yours or your mother's accounts. They have something. Maybe they have text messages and stuff, but they have something, in my opinion, that shows that you absolutely knew that you were not pregnant. and that you did this anyways. Because we all believe kind of beyond a reasonable doubt, but if we were to break it down in the court of law, if they don't have something that definitively shows that there is no way you could have ever believed you were pregnant or you knew you weren't pregnant, there could be some reasonable doubt. Like you try to state, well, I thought I was pregnancy. I had positive tests. And if that's all that there was, you might not be criminally charged. And they don't indict for perjury very often because it is hard to prove that somebody knowingly lied. And then it wasn't just a mistake, it wasn't a misunderstanding, um, that you didn't know that you were lying when you said it, and things like that. So for them to charge you with perjury, there has to be, to me, they would not have brought a case unless there was definitive proof that they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you knowingly lied and you knowingly did all of this as a plot and a scheme to Greg and to Clayton. They just, to me, would not have charged it. As much as they may have wanted to, I don't think they would have. That's why I think they have more evidence that proves that she knowingly did all this. We just haven't seen it. And the prosecution shouldn't be putting that out into the public. They're supposed to try it in court. And she's not going to admit to those things. And the thing is she knows, she should know because of discovery, if they've turned over everything while she's writing these things and making her fake website, she knows what the prosecutors have on her because they have to say, hey, here's the discovery. This is everything we have on your client. We know that she bought HCG from this person. We've seen her text messages. We have the receipt for when she bought the baby bump from Amazon or Fake Mommies Are Us. They have all that, and Laura knows what they have. It's not going to be a surprise at trial. Laura knows exactly what they have and what they are likely to present in their case. And she still wants to write this bullshit. So then she wants to talk about, oh, tabloid and all this. You know, she wanted to bring it to them. More about reproductive things. For constitutional scholars, this case raises profound due process concerns for reproductive rights lawyers. It signals a tectonic shift towards treating pregnancy as a condition requiring surveillance and sanction. For the ACLU and similar organizations, it presents the kind of structural threat that demands intervention, not because of who the defendant is, but because of what the precedent would allow. Oh, do you have the ACLU on your side? I would love to know what the ACLU has to say about this. The ACLU did not come out voting very well during the Depp v. Heard trial and the stuff that they were trying to support Amber Heard for. But yeah, what is people fighting for civil liberties, such as the ACLU, who is supposed to be a great organization? My thing is if you thought the ACLU would be trying to help you, would help you find an attorney, they would be a great resource for you if the ACLU thought that your civil rights were being violated. But you aren't using any of that, so I assume the ACLU doesn't give a shit about you or doesn't know about you. Jupiter Janes. Imagine if Mike's case wasn't outside the time frame required to pursue charges. I wonder how many charges she'd have then. Well, Mike's is in a different state, so California would have to do something, and California would have to prove it. And because she just renewed a restraining tried to renew a restraining order on Mike, I wonder if it still makes it to where his could still be in the time frame. Um, because I think that's part of what makes Greg's in the time frame is if she would have just left it, it might have been out of the statute of limitations, but because she renewed recently for Greg, that would be that's what made Greg's able to be charged is because she recently did something, because if she would have just left it for when she originally did all this and didn't try to renew with Greg, she might not have had these charges. But I think by renewing the restraining order, it made all of that still within the statute of limitations because it's continuing the stuff that she was doing back then to now. And to me, if that's the situation in Arizona, which I don't know if it is or not, to me, that would go for the same stuff in Mike's case, is by her trying to renew that restraining order and continuing her saga of these lies and manipulation and fraudulent schemes, that it would possibly be in the statute of limitations. That would be for a California prosecutor to look at, not me, because I am not a lawyer. But to me, I would definitely argue that if I was a prosecutor to somebody, if they're like, "Yeah, it's out of the statute of limitations," I would argue that to try to see if it could be in the statute of limitations. Let's see. So if the state can criminalize a pregnancy that is never materialized or one that ended too soon, well, you're not being convicted on any of that. She says, an old assumptions that a miscarriage is not a crime, that mistaken belief is not a felony, the family law filings are not gateways to prison, began to collapse. No, they just collapse for people that lie and scheme and commit fraud. Not once those assumptions collapsed, the policy of pregnancy becomes not an outlier, but a template, not just in Arizona, but everywhere. Yeah, you really thought you did something there with that article, and you didn't. You just proved how much you do not understand things. Tried before trial, how public certainty erased presumption of innocence. Well, see, you had a trial or court hearings before the criminal. You had a civil trial, which people knew about. And so people are allowed to make conclusions of you based off the civil trial. But the thing is none of us are going to be sitting on the jury that convicts you. Anybody that knows about Laura Owens or even Clayton Eckerd is going to be sitting on that jury. It is going to be people who have never heard of you because you really are a nobody. You try to be a somebody, but you're a nobody. You've just tried to be someone and you're not. You're a loser. And the public certainty erased the presumption of innocence. No, you did that all on your own by following a civil trial. That's it. And we're allowed to, after watching a trial, have our own conclusions. The jury can't come in with those perceived notions, but they're not going to. Reach the internet before the court. Where is her other thing? that she wrote about. Okay. Let's see here. And then, it had on there, but it's not on there anymore, is the concerts that apparently were not at real addresses, or they're at real addresses, but they're not real places. And they're all out of state. The only one she would ever be able to do is one in Arizona. She has a privacy policy apparently on her webpage. As far as I can see, there is no case updates and discussion, but it's a space for us to connect and share with each other. Start by posting your thoughts, sharing media, and creating a poll. No, I suggest nobody actually go and do that. Please don't. I don't even know if she still has this page. Can y'all see it? Nope, because I'm not sharing the right one. I am not sharing the right one. Okay, remove that. Add to stage. Stop screen share. Add to stage. Share screen. Here's her discussion page. I do not think that any of y'all should go write anything on her page. Don't give it attention. Like, we can review it here, but I can't tell you what to do, but that would just be my thing, is don't give a reason. Like, don't go over there and do things because you don't want her to have extra stuff. Like, we can talk about it on these things where it's just an open discussion, but this to me would be somebody personally harassing, because you know that it's Laura and you would be saying things to her, probably not nice things, that she could try to constitute as harassing, even though I don't think it would, because it says that it's a Justice for Laura volunteer. I don't know who got put in, I don't know what type of Hunger Games person had, what had to happen here to be volunteered as tribute to JFL. All right. Let's see here. Let's remove that. Okay. About supporters. Okay. Activism through media workshop. Oh, that one's on the 5th in Boston. Didn't know she was going to be in Boston on the 5th, right? Or maybe this is just some workshop that has nothing to do with her. She's just like, hey, you could go learn how to do activism through media. It's just a random workshop. I'm not putting it on or anything, but you could just go there because I support what they're doing. what that is. Sitemap, URLs, the thank you page, contact page. Do not contact her. Groups, Justice for Laura Owens. Welcome to our case updates. Welcome to our group, media and public perception chat. A space for us to connect. A space for us to connect. Okay. Bunch of hogwash. Our terms and conditions. All that. And then this article. This is the one that a lot of people have read and that I've heard probably the most that we're going to go over. That she wrote on December 13th. So I think this one was written before any of the other ones. And she uses her red sweater picture. But why intent collapses the case against Laura Owens. There is a reason that I chose Motive Means an Opportunity as the intro song for today. Because you don't have to prove motive in a criminal case. It helps if you can come up with motive. But she wants to talk about her intent. One or two, yeah, one or two likes. Probably herself is one of those likes. Yes, she did South Florida. She has discharged her mens rea all over the Medium blogs. But now that you made me say discharged, I am mad at you, South Florida thrifter. That's gross. She could never be a sister wife, ever. Because she's too jealous. She's too crazy. She could never. But while she wants to come in here and argue no, I do not have an OF account, whoever that is. I don't know who you are. Let me go see something real quick here. How do I... Let me see something that I might need to do. Okay, somebody's going to have to teach me how to do subscriber mode, because I don't know how to do that. Because this is the first weird question I've ever gotten before. Like that. Okay. You're going in timeout. Outside. You're going in timeout for that. I don't know who you are, but okay. Continuing on. Sorry about that. So, as I was saying, she talks about criminal intent and she tries to explain this away. But she does have intent. She also has the motive, the means, and the opportunity to do this. And she's the only one that has all three of those, in my opinion, because nobody else does. So, mens rea or criminal intent is the mental state required for a crime, meaning that the conscious decision to commit an unlawful act, a key component alongside the physical act for a legal conviction. So, the intent can vary in severity: purposeful, knowing, reckless, negligent, and can be general or specific, impacting the charge and sentencing. So, does the criminal have a desired outcome? Does the alleged criminal conscientiously disregard substantial risk? Or should she have been aware of the risk but wasn't? We know she's aware of what she's doing. She chose to not give a fuck that what she was doing was wrong and that it was a lie because she wants to be with these not men. She wants to be with these men, and she will do whatever it takes to try to get them to stay with her and commit to her. Laws be damned. Truth be damned. I will do whatever it takes. I will lie. I will scheme. I will commit fraud. I will assume other people's identities. She recklessly did it. She knowingly did it. She purposefully did it. So she does have criminal intent. But she had the means because she was the person that was supposedly carrying this child. She is the one that brought the parenting claim. She is the one that doctored the evidence or bought HCG or wore a moon bump. The motive was for her to keep these men or to not be alone. And whether her not wanting to be alone or having abandonment issues for whatever reason, it doesn't make what you're doing right. It doesn't matter. You cannot do this to people. And so that's your motivation. And you've had huge opportunities. You have your Adobe stuff downloaded. You you are the one who wrote these things in your free time. You called the police. You assume these identities. You had all this time on each and every one of these men, but you have had the last 10 to 14 years to do all this. And your mother doesn't have the motive for it. She has the means to help you, and there's opportunity for her to do it. But the motive doesn't fit there with her. That's why she could just be an accomplice. Same thing with your sister. Nobody else other than her benefits from any of this stuff. I mean, I guess you could say Jan would benefit if she's like, Laura, when are you going to give me a grandbaby? Your sister's already given me a grandbaby. But I did not time you out. I don't I didn't time you out. Um I timed somebody else out. Name outside stuff. But no. Although it does have I don't know what that means. I don't know. All right. But the DA has all sorts of proof showing she had intent. I believe that too, Viking. So when she talks about she didn't have the intent and that she has to knowingly to commit a crime, you do not have to know that you're committing a crime. You have to know that the act of what you're doing is right and wrong. You don't have to know whether it's legal or not legal. If you know that it's wrong and it happens to be a crime and you decide to do it, you know that fraud is illegal. You know that you cannot bring frivolous claims to court. You cannot trick people into things for even a financial motive when she wants to say nothing was financial, but she tried to extort Clayton to get him to allow her to drop this case. She also was suing for child support. But as she says, knowledge, purpose. You had the knowledge that what you were doing was wrong. And you purposefully did it. You weren't confused about what was right and wrong. That's why the insanity plea is there. Because people that are actually insane, they are confused. Sometimes people with mental disabilities who don't really understand necessarily the difference between right and wrong. They know people get mad at them, but they don't understand what they did wrong. I have a niece. She doesn't understand all of that. If she did something like a crime, she would have no idea what she was doing was wrong or right, unless people started getting onto her and telling her, no, you don't do that. That's wrong. That's bad. Then she would be like, okay, I guess what I did was bad. But she also can't remember what she did long enough to know. She's, kind of like our dogs. Our dogs are like, okay, you're mad at me. And they remember for like 5 minutes maybe why you're mad at them. If they peed on the floor or they tore something up and chewed something, um, and you get on to them for doing those things, and then they forget. They If you try to get on to them, like, an hour later for it, they're like, "Um, I didn't I didn't pee, on the carpet. What are you talking? I didn't even do anything," because they don't remember. A toddler, you get onto them for something they did an hour after they did it, they have no recollection because they have done 90,000,000 other things since they did the bad thing. So, you're not any of those, Laura, and you do have a fear of getting caught, and that's how we know you know what you did was wrong, is because you would not have done these things if you weren't afraid of the truth coming out. You you have tried to hide your crimes, and if they have found no baby bump, but they have found a purchase for one, that shows consciousness of guilt, because why hide the baby bump? Fear of somebody finding it there? Why delete stuff off your phone if you've done that? I don't know if you have or not. That hasn't come out in evidence. We'll find out in July. But you had the intention. It doesn't mean that you need to know that it was a crime necessarily, but you do know it's a crime because you're not as dumb as you act. Yeah, and some dogs are like, "Eat this stuffed animal exploded." Like, I didn't do that. It just poof. But there's going to be plenty of proof of intent because no matter how crazy you wanna act and how much of an emotional basket case you wanna do and a perpetuant child, at the end of the day, you are a person who knows right from wrong. Your intent and your fear of getting caught, your consciousness of guilt when when you omitted Los Angeles Planned Parenthood on your HIPAA form, which I don't think that you just missed putting it on there because I don't think you actually went there. And so that's why you didn't put it on there. But the fact that you made up another Planned Parenthood and off the top of your head, mighty quickly, might I add, when they were like San Bernardino and all these other places. Well, did you do Los Angeles? Like you had that one ready to go. So I'll just not put Los Angeles on there. And then when they ask me about it, I'll be like, well, you didn't check Los Angeles. So by you making up an extra place or omitting it off of your HIPAA release form, you are knowingly and purposefully doing that stuff. You're not confused. The only fear there is a fear of getting caught. So do not come out here with a bunch of this. And when I heard her bring up mens rea, all I could think about was Legal Vices. And Legal Vices would have had so much fun with this part of it. Because if you remember in his clips, at the beginning of his intro, he has the mens res clip. Um, and so it like he would have just been laughing at this. and laughing at how stupid she is and telling her, "Off you fuck." Um, Legal Vices is definitely missed. Let me pull something up real quick. Here, let me see here. So it was off of See No Evil, Hear No Evil with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. Um, if you want to go watch that movie, um, because Gene Wilder has a misunderstanding of what mens rea is. So you could go, yeah, let's see where you can actually go watch it. Apparently, you can watch it on Pluto TV. See No Evil, Hear No Evil. Dave is deaf and Wally is blind. They witnessed a murder, but it was Dave who was looking at her and Wally who was listening. So, yes. Well, it says that it's in See No Evil, Hear No Evil. Um, oh, well, it might be out of that one, but they're saying it's in that one. So let's see that one. Where can you watch that one? Tubi has Stir Crazy, again with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. They were set up and wrongfully accused. Two best friends are sent to prison for a crime they didn't commit. However, no prison cell can keep them locked in a cage. So there are two movies that you could watch. I'm sure Legal Vices watched both of them, but when she brought up mens rea and criminal intent, it just made me think of that, um, which is a happier memory, is laughing at that. So there's you two movie recommendations to go watch. I might watch one of them myself tonight. And let's see, Fair Notice. You could foresee that you are committing a felony because you know that forging documents, pretending to be somebody is unlawful. You know that committing fraudulent schemes is against the law. So you had the foreseeability. You are not being criminalized for family court or mistaken pregnancy or a miscarriage. You're not being charged with anything of that. The absence of motive is the absence of intent. Well, we went over the motive that you had. Extortion is driven by leverage. Oh, listen, because intent is rarely proven directly, court looks to motive. Well, you don't have to prove motive. So does that mean you don't have to prove intent? That you didn't intend to commit a crime? Fraud schemes are driven by gain. Yeah, you were trying to gain something. Extortion is driven by leverage. Yeah, you were trying to use leverage of knowing that Clayton made a mistake with personal boundaries and extort him. Perjury is driven by the desire to avoid consequences. Ma'am, all you do is avoid consequences. And no, perjury is not necessarily driven by the desire to avoid consequences. It is it can also be derived by you not wanting the truth to come out about something for whatever reason there is behind it, whether it could hurt somebody that you love or whether you're trying to avoid consequences or get caught. Be, and the truth about yourself comes out. The effects she could not control and that testing alone could establish. She stood to gain nothing unless Eckerd was biologically determined to be the father. Ma'am, you tried to extort him for some money, so no. You extorted him and his fame as well. Because extortion doesn't have to just be about money. But you are trying to be a legal scholar or just a scholar in general here, literary scholar, and you're just not. You do not have fundamental understanding of a lot of things. Or you do, and you're just playing dumb and trying to twist them to your narrative. Eckerd focuses on statements concerning sexual exclusivity during a window in which conception could have occurred. The defendant tried to disappear after you found out that nobody believes you because you were fully okay with being in the spotlight. And if everybody stood behind you and hated Clayton, you are all good for that. You wanted to disappear, which you still have not disappeared because you're putting out this website because nobody likes you. Without intent, the prosecution has a narrative, not law. Well, the thing is a narrative can be used in law. And that is true. A prosecution does have a narrative. The defense has a narrative as well. And when it comes down to it, is it that whose narrative do you believe? And here, I don't believe your narrative. I would find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think when we see what the state offers in this criminal trial, it will just reaffirm that there is no reasonable doubt that you did these things. So she's just saying a lot of shit. No, Bruce, I haven't found that. I mean, I'm looking for it. I'm going to extort Bruce for evidence of Laura's intent or her lack of intent. I'm going to extort Bruce and his moose antlers. But that is a lot of what I wanted to say is I'm tired of her acting like she was swatted with guns blazing and that she was treated like the worst criminal in the world when she wasn't, and that I don't even know if the actual SWAT team per se was there. I think they were just police officers and not necessarily the SWAT team division. I could be wrong about that. If somebody knows, let me know. Um, the intent, to go over the motive, the means, and the opportunity as well, and what the real meaning of intent is, because she has it wrong. Um, going over the fact that, as it was pointed out by Lauren Knighty yesterday, that I saw that Laura exposed that she is the one behind this because she's the only one that has the invite links to give out for the deposition clips. Because it'd be one thing if they were off of David Gingras' channel, but they're not. They're off of Laura's. But, and the fact that she has the right to remain silent, and she is not exercising her Fifth Amendment right. And that everything she has put on this page can and will be used against her. And that her lawyer needs to rein her ass in. I do not think she's going to take a plea. Although I could see them being like, admit that you lied about this and we'll drop the perjury charges. I don't think they're going to let her get away with not at least admitting to one of the fraudulent schemes. I can see them deciding to drop perjury, though, because they don't necessarily really want her for that. But it goes to proving her fraudulent schemes. The perjury just goes right along with it. It's another act she committed in furthering her scheme. But yes, we could definitely drop a hot dance track. We could drop one on Valentine's Day too. A little romance. A love dance track. In be careful with those burritos. You might end up with a burrito baby. She is definitely guilty of being a bad person. For sure. And I don't know if any of y'all set New Year's resolutions. Of course, most women, it is to lose weight a lot of times. Probably fix something vanity-wise on ourselves. Those are always, that's not necessarily a resolution. But I hope that there are some goals that you have for yourself this year. Whether it's to clean your bathroom mirror once a week, or, you know, clean out your car every day, not drink as many sodas, stuff like that, whatever it is. Yes, I want resolution to this case. That is a resolution. Do not inject yourself with HCG, and that would not be a good thing. My resolution is to have a healthier year. I don't know how that's going to go. My health be better this year than it was last, but that's always a resolution of mine, and I don't have control over it for my things. I also want to continue with this channel. I want to continue to grow our community. I want to find more ways to spread awareness and talk about important things. hey, animals are important. I had a TikTok that was just my animal, but she just lays around and is lazy a lot. And so, like, my dog is not TikTok material. She's my grunty pig, and she just sleeps and snores. And there was nothing entertaining to put on the TikTok. I tried to make her because she's so pretty. She's just a pretty girl. Um, but yeah, I want to continue to grow, um, and continue fighting for injustice and standing up for things that are right. Oh, I don't really have, let me see. I may have changed it from what her name was because it was just listed under her name. It might be under, what is it under? Let me see here. Oh. Ah. Oh, I don't have anything on it now. So it's just blank. I do have a TikTok, but I don't have anything on it. It's Loud Little Ducky though. I did change it over to that because it was Adventures of Ivy Rose, because that's my dog's name is Ivy Rose, my little dachshund. But that is going to be it for me tonight. Thank y'all for coming over and joining. I know that other people cover it. And I have enjoyed listening to Echoes go over it and Lauren go over it. Bruce goes over certain things. So I enjoy listening to all of them, and I've had to listen. Um, and I'm going to cover her bankruptcy when more comes out about it. Right now, it's basically she filed for it and she lies about her finances. Same with Jan and Ron. They filed for bankruptcy. Um, they lie about their finances. That's pretty much all it is right now. So I am still watching it, and I'm watching Big Tiff um for that stuff too. And so I am going to end it for tonight. I hope y'all have an amazing night. Have a good Sunday. Um and I will see you hopefully later again this week. Might drop some pre-recorded videos this week as well because I have a little bit of free time this week. But good night, everybody.